What's the minimum that they will, the Israeli people will accept?
Finish it. South, north, finish it. People will not go back home in the north. We evacuated 63 villages in the north. They will not go back home knowing there is Hezbollah, which is worse than Hamas, that we could do October 7 next year. You wouldn't take your kids there. I wouldn't take my kids there. Who wants to live there? In the end, Israel should stand by herself and do the job.
Good evening and welcome to the Rosenberg Report. Obviously, we're not coming to you from Jerusalem. Tonight, we're coming to you from the Israel-Lebanon border. Just less than 3 miles behind me is the closest you can get as an Israeli civilian or reporter right now to the Lebanon border. And all those positions, all that territory behind me is controlled by Hezbollah terrorists. And Hezbollah has opened up already over the past week to 10 days. Hezbollah is attacking Israeli military intelligence positions all along this northern border and even some civilian locations. 64 communities, Israeli communities up here on the northern tier, have been evacuated. Even one of the largest cities on the northern border, Kiryat Shmona, evacuated by the Israeli military. Israeli tanks, Israeli troops, hundreds of thousands of soldiers are getting ready for the eventualities. And we're up here to talk about what could happen. How bad could it get? Many people say this could be a lake of fire if Hezbollah goes all in with its 150,000 to 200,000 missiles, many of them more powerful, much more powerful than Hamas rockets in the south. Or should Israel, given that Hezbollah is already engaging, should Israel go all in and take the first big punch, not only attacking Hezbollah and trying to neutralize it without waiting, and possibly even taking out Iran's nuclear facilities at the same time? We're talking to multiple experts up here on the border. This is the Rosenberg Report. Let's get started. Sarit, thank you so much for being on the Rosenberg Report. We are here just 12 kilometers from the Lebanon border. You have lived your life in Israeli intelligence as a lieutenant colonel, and now running this research center focusing on the threats from the north. Let's start with your summary of how serious this threat is, of this whole northern border completely going up in a full-blown war with Hezbollah.
The Iranian plan was to create a multi-front attack from 7 areas: Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, inside Israel, West Bank, Gaza, and I can even add cyber, and only in the end, Iran, because the Iranians, they will fight the state of Israel until the last drop of blood of the Palestinians. They don't care. They will fight the state of Israel until the last drop of blood of the Lebanese. They don't care.
If we have to fight from the north and the south, should we hit Iran early?
It's a challenge, and I think that's why the IDF now is focusing on the south. It's okay that IDF is focused on the south to make sure that we eliminate the threat of Hamas in the south. But it is very important that everybody, our leadership and world leadership, will remember that as we speak, there are people up north that cannot go back to their homes, and this needs to be addressed.
Let's take a look at the border specifically, because your map here really gets sort of granular in terms of what's going on here now.
All these nails, and there are more, I didn't put it yesterday, are areas where we had attacks in the past 2 weeks.
In the past 2 weeks?
Infiltration, wow. and it's not all of them.
Yeah.
There were more. Infiltration, missiles, anti-tank, UAV that was on its way to Haifa and was intercepted. And I'm saying there were many more.
And also you were describing to me the plan for Hezbollah that you came across 10 years ago was a full-on invasion of the whole invasion.
Can I go back there to show you?
Yeah, sure.
If you look here, this is a video that Hezbollah, that's a TV station of Hezbollah, that was published almost a decade ago. And when I look at that last week, I had it in my computer for many years. When I look at that last week, I said, 5
invading forces.
I said, this is exactly what happened. The idea here is not to get just to the IDF positions, is to get to the cities.
And slaughter people
And
in the
slaughter
cities.
people and take them as hostages to become human shield. It is clearly said in the video. You'll see this in a minute. And it is saying how exactly to do it, to come in, to first to bomb with a lot of fire, just like what happened in Gaza, and then to come in with many, many forces, kind of an invasion to the towns. They have here an analysis, they're not accurate, but they have in an analysis of all the cities and towns up here in the north, to take hostages from the towns that will be used as human shields. They call this plan, it's not what I'm calling this plan, they call this plan taking the control over the Galilee.
They've been very open for a decade, and that's why you're so scared, because this is
because
tomorrow.
We grew up on Sun Tzu. We grew up on deception when we speak about the military battlefield, right? With this terrorist group is different because they don't need their soldiers to survive. So what they want is to kill as many Israelis as possible. It doesn't matter how many will get killed on their side.
I see.
They want to create, for them, preparedness for war is creating a feeling of fear and weakness among Israelis before the war. So this propaganda serves their notion. It completely makes sense for them to expose their plans. And as you saw, we missed it anyway, even if they publish it.
Hamas is getting about $100 million a year from Iran. Palestinian Islamic Jihad also maybe a little bit less than 100 million. But Hezbollah, 700 million a year?
The biggest.
Biggest, wow.
The biggest.
So if Israel doesn't go to war right now with Hezbollah, even though we don't want to, they're just going to execute this once all the tanks leave, all the troops leave, the 2 aircraft carrier strike groups. Once things get quiet again, they have the ability. They're already ready.
And
for 10 years.
Moreover, if you want to understand what I'm saying, Hamas was prepared for a long time, probably, right? Everybody understands that now, right? If we go to war, and it will be stopped because of
international pressure.
International pressure. The cost for both sides, by the way. Both sides are going to pay a price if there will be war now. Okay? And it will be stopped. Before we defeated Hezbollah, we didn't do anything. It's better not to go to war. If we not go to war, and the US carrier will go back home, and the soldiers who were drafted will go back home, who will protect me and my family? I don't know what to pray for, right? I don't know what to pray for. I pray for Hezbollah to be eliminated. How exactly? I leave this to the leadership. But first and foremost, it's important that everybody will understand that it's next door. Don't compare it to Afghanistan. Don't compare it to Vietnam. These are my neighbors.
Sivan Yechieli was an IDF infantry and reconnaissance officer for more than 10 years. Even though he was a software executive and an entrepreneur, he was also the mayor of an Israeli community right up on the northern border with Lebanon. And he was the chair of Israel's Northern Confrontation Line Forum, a government policy team aimed at ensuring regional protection and continuity in times of war. I talked to him about what the threat really is as he sees it and what Israel should do. Sivan, you were a mayor of this community. You are now heading up sort of the community defenses. How worried are you that Hezbollah will try to launch an attack, an invasion of the north to slaughter Israelis on this border as they did on October 7th from Hamas in the south?
To be honest, we are worried. Okay, there's no. What happened in the south is a mirror picture of what can happen here. We expected it to happen here, not in the south. And the strength of Hezbollah is far stronger than the Hamas.
So, what do you want to see the government do? I mean, on the one hand, if no action is taken, if the war doesn't happen, then the 2 U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups are going to leave. All the tanks and troops from Israel will go back home, and you guys will be alone again on this border. On the other hand, a full-on war is a devastating prospect. What are you praying for? What do you think should happen?
We have never in our worst nightmares imagined that the Hamas, even when invading, would kidnap children, would do the atrocities that it has done. I don't want to repeat it because I think it's too much to handle. Horrific. So it's horrifying. It's barbaric actions that modern society doesn't know. It's a fight between the barbaric society and cultured society and Western society. We never imagined that's possible. We never imagined they would kidnap children, babies, grandmothers,
Holocaust survivors.
Holocaust survivors. Think about what will you tell a mother now that wants to go back to her home? Will she be able to grow her children there? Will she be able to have babies over there? Will she be able to live in quiet? So there's a gun held at, a fully loaded gun, held at our heads. They're pointing at it to our heads. And the question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to ask them, are we going to shoot us? When are you going to shoot us? Do you want to shoot us? Let's find a way to... That's not the way to cope with it. The way to cope with it is to remove that gun. That fully loaded gun should be removed.
So that means, does Israel strike hard first? Is there any other way than doing that?
I'm not in a position today I don't have the intelligence and I don't know the other considerations that the government has to make. But if you ask me as someone who's been a soldier in the army and an officer in the army, I would attack first. When you attack first, the enemy is on the defense. The enemy is confused. You choose where to do it, how to do it. When you're on the defense, the enemy has the advantage. He decides when to attack, he decides in what forces to attack. He studies you, he knows your weaknesses, and then he can attack you. So from our point of view, it's something that this threat has to be removed. Otherwise, I don't see how communities will be able to live along the border. It's not going to happen. What is this? We're supposed to be the strongest nation in this region. We have to take action. We have lost more than twice the number of people that we lost in the first day of Yom Kippur War, where we fought two full armies with hundreds of thousands of soldiers and amazing amounts of weapons and tanks and whatever. We lost 1,300 people in one day. We paid the price. Now we have to make sure that this kind of event cannot happen again. This is something that cannot happen again. And we have to fight in order to do that.
What's your message for Christians? What should Christians in America and around the world, what should we know? And how can we stand with Israel at this time?
The first thing we need to know is that this is a war between the light and the darkness and the light. These barbaric actions are not mistaken. This is something that we've seen all around the Muslim community. We've seen that with ISIS. Now we've seen it with Hamas. We'll probably see the same with Hezbollah. We've seen things like that happen in the Palestinian Authority. We have to fight. And I think that this is something that we have to understand. This is not a fight. It's not a local war. It's not a local war. This is the forces of evil against the forces of light.
Marco Moreno is a lieutenant colonel in the Israeli military, working in intelligence over more than 25 years. He's fought in numerous wars. He currently runs an NGO called Frontier Alliance International. He's an expert on the threats facing Israel in the north, and I met with him on the Lebanon border.
Marco, you were a lieutenant colonel in the Israeli army. You served for 25 years, and much of that in the reserves. But here we are on the Lebanon border. It's been fighting almost nonstop. There was attacks right in this area just in the recent days. Where does this thing go from here? Where should it go from here?
It's a good question, Joel. This thing should go to a very simple picture winning. Would look like attacking the Iranian nuclear plan, destroying Hezbollah, destroying Hamas. In that order. I was in the army for 25 years. True, I'm a lieutenant colonel, but I'm a civilian.
Yeah. You live up here. You live up here.
I live up here, and now I'm a refugee in my country. Okay, I'm located in Tiberias with my family because we cannot stay in the north. Very simple. No one will go back home in the north before Hezbollah is done. No one will go back home in surrounding Gaza before Hamas is done. Now, Iran, nuclear weapon, it's the strategic problem. So we have an opportunity. Let's finish that also. There is a covenant between the IDF and Israeli people, it is a covenant from 48. That's the reason every 3 months we are sending the kids to the army to serve, maybe die. That's the reason we're giving them the biggest budget. That's the reason that the IDF, and you live here, Joel, you know, the IDF is like the Holy Cup in Israel. This covenant is broken. This covenant is broken. The Israel public has a trust issue with the army now, after what we saw on October 7. So if this thing, war, which I think, for my personal opinion, it's the independent war, it's the second one, will not end in a, massive victory, this covenant will be broken. And I'm telling you, this is the end of Israel. Simple as that. You know, Christians talk about the end of times. I don't know. We might be in the end of times. If this covenant will not be fixed, if the Israeli public will not will trust the army again, and the army will deliver, which I know he can, it's another ballgame.
It's terrifying.
We have to win this war. We don't have any other option. If we will not win this war, South, North, Iran, it's the end of times. Simple as that.
All right, then I have to ask you, are you more worried about fighting Hezbollah and all the damage and all the death, or are you more worried right now about Jerusalem not going to war?
Jerusalem not going to war?
I mean, the Israeli government deciding, Biden has tied our hands, or the world won't let us, or, I mean, it sounds like you're saying...
Yeah, if the Israeli government will not finish this thing, as I said, probably they will not stay, because this is a democratic country. They will go home, everybody. And we will try to, and I don't know what will happen, I'm just a civilian. I'm telling you what the street talk is, okay? Yeah. You bring the street talk. This is the talk. We need to finish it. Now, it's not logic, think about it. Saudi is looking, Iran is looking, Hezbollah is looking, Syria is looking, everybody's looking, all our enemies. How do we treat this war? Will take us 50, 100 years ahead.
What's the minimum that the Israeli people will accept?
Finish it. South, North, finish it. People will not go back home in the North. We evacuated 63 villages in the North. They will not go back home knowing there is Hezbollah, which is worse than Hamas, that we can do October 7 next year. You wouldn't take your kids there. I wouldn't take my kids there. Who wants to live there? In the end, Israel should stand by herself and do the job. Start with Iran. Because take, for example, if we finish Hamas and Hezbollah, we still have a nuclear weapon.
84% enrichment, on the edge.
Which in 3 months they will have it. And then what? Imagine if they had a nuclear weapon now, and Hamas will do that. What was the balance at that time?
That is the end of times.
That is the end of times.
Marco, we're praying for you.
Thank you, brother. Love you.
We're with you.
We are right in the border. We are now in a community called Jish or Gush Khalav. It's a very biblical town. Since Jesus' time, it was inhabited by Jews. You see Lebanon in front of you over there. That's the peak mountain, or the peak of that mountain. There's a village called Marun al-Ras, means the head of Marun.
Okay.
And that village, from its name, it was supposed to be a Maronite village, a Christian, native, indigenous Aramaic people. But today it is inhabited by Shia Muslim. As it happened in the south by ISIS back in the 16th century, what we call today ISIS Hamas or ISIS Al-Qaeda, all those groups, these people were here as well. Since then, and they attacked this town, they butchered the Christian Aramaic people, they slaughtered them, beheaded them, and ethnic cleansed them, and re-inhabited this place in the Ottoman Empire with Muslim Shia that brought them from Iraq. So nothing changed in the Middle East, my friend. The same ideology still run 1,400 years by political extremist Muslims that want to kill anyone who is different than them.
How would you describe how scared Christians and all Israelis are on this border right now?
Look, everybody, Christian, Jews here, Cherkessians, Druze, are fearing from a future escalation, full escalation. 2006, we had people stopped counting 95 when they reached 95 rockets that fall around this town and in our just Jish region. Today, we expect about 4,000 to 6,000 missiles that will be fired from Hezbollah Islamic group toward Lebanon, toward Israel, north of Israel, and maybe even longer than much further than north of Israel, that might hit everywhere or anywhere, and that's a huge strategic threat.
4,000 a day?
A day.
A day.
And
As
they
opposed to
can,
4,000
and
a
they can
month in
sustain
2006.
that for about a month or 2 months this way.
Terrifying.
They have 150,000 mortars and missiles, short, long, and medium range. You have 10,000 precision-guided missiles. You have 5,000 UAVs. You are talking about huge power.
What's your message to President Biden? What's your message to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I ask them that if we are already in this war, we see we are already on this war, at the end of it, I want to see, and I hope to see, that Israel and the US will eliminate the threats surrounding Israel, starting with Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other Shia militias in Syria and Iran. That's my hope, because otherwise, if they want really peace in the Middle East, peace will not come. If Hezbollah is still in our borders, this is a monster, and you don't want to sleep with a monster. This is very, very huge, aggressive monster. And if we don't eliminate it now, when all opportunities are available now, from US and from us, as there are 400,000 Israeli IDF soldiers recruited as well, this is the right time to do it.
How can Christians in the United States, Canada, and around the world, how do you want us to be praying for you?
I want you to pray for the peace of Israel and the peace of Lebanon, and help us get rid of Hezbollah, this terrorist organization supported by Iran, $1 billion yearly by Iran. And this, by eliminating it, we will help Israel and Lebanon make peace again, and help Israel and the Arab world make peace again together and live here peacefully in the Middle East. Without doing so, Christian people in the world are not doing their job, because we are asking for peace. And the prayers for peace might be answered if we eliminate this threat.
And you're just to be clear, you're saying praying for peace means Israel has to continue to go to war at this point.
Peace will come after this war.
Wow.
Not before.
We're with you, but I'm sorry that it's gotten to this.
You.
Yeah, bless you,
Thank
brother.
you. Thank you, Joel.
We're with you. Yeah, amen.
We will make it. We will win
Amen.
together. United,
Amen.
we will win.
B'yachad, together, and with the Lord.